I wanted to make a quick video showing a cool process that came out of an idea on Twitter by Kelly. So one of the questions was, how can I get some help? What's going on? And it turns out we're looking at doing point clouds on a Revit model, simulating point clouds with some scanner families. This blew up pretty quick as well, so it was kind of neat. So we have a model, a sample model here with some families in it that represent scan locations and some conditions. So what we could do is we'll fire up Dynamo. In my case, I'm on 1.3, and we'll look at how to start to work with some of this data. So I have a file called scanner that we're currently using just to mess with this stuff. I'll minimize my library and we can see a few things. So within this model, we actually have the scanner location selected, we have a view selected, and a density of points. We have a few things like getting the location of the scanner and offsetting that to be able to be the height that it would shoot from. There's also this concept of a cone of silence to where we can't scan, if that were to pertain. For generating things, we're able to shoot some rays out within Dynamo. So inside of Dynamo natively, we have this ray bounce by origin and direction. So all we would need to do is feed it some origin points, which direction it needs to go, which would be this location. We'll go ahead and turn down the density considerably. So we'll go ahead and make it really low, just so it's a little easier. How many bounces you want? So I just want it to bounce once, and then what view you want. The problem is with the out-of-the-box Dynamo node, when we do a ray bounce, it's shooting that point, and I'll go ahead and hide this. It's shooting that point from that center of that scanner and constantly grabbing the scanner. That's because it's visible in this view. So that's kind of a problem. That's not really going to do what we want. So I'll turn the scanners back on, and I'll go ahead and get rid of this out-of-the-box node. This did require a custom implementation instead. So what we're able to do is essentially a ray bounce as well. What we do is we make a filter for it to ignore generic models, and we shoot rays out in all of the different directions and return the points that happen. So it's a few lines just to be able to do something a little custom. So that is a custom node, so we need to go to File, Import Library, and actually import this DLL. So now we can see I'll hit save, and I'll reopen my graph, and we'll have that library available to us. So if I expand my library and I go to Project Points, Shoot Rays, I now have a similar node to the ray bounce. So what we're able to do is feed in a view, the origin point, and the directions. It'll think for a moment, and we'll have some points as outputs, and we'll go ahead and change the density to make it a little higher. So as we start to change that density, we can see it running. One cool thing with Dynamo is we can actually start to do color analysis. So based on how many scan locations I have, I'm going to go ahead and override the points to represent those locations. So we could start to see which scanner belongs to what cluster of points. So now what we could do is we could go ahead and start to drag this density higher, and we'll see that the point cloud is getting more and more dense. As we get higher, it starts to think a little more because it's trying to render all of this. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and type something in that's pretty large, like 100, and I'll show where we can preview that grid of points as well. So once those generate, we can go ahead and navigate the background by holding down Escape. And we can see that we have all these different points that we generated on that model based on these scan locations. The place that I'm hosting the points that I'm going to use are right on this point at parameter node. So if I select it, toggle my background, and hit zoom to fit, we can now see that those are my points that I'm using. So that's how I'm shooting outward. That's all the directions that I'm using. So we'll go ahead and turn that back off, and we will zoom to fit the whole thing, and now we can still see that we have all those points. Also, if you wanted to see which scanners are responsible a little more isolated, we can do something like get item at index, and we'll hide this, and we'll do an integer slider. We could start to see which clusters are responsible now on a more isolated basis. So as we drag this, and you can only go as many scanners as you have. As we start to drag this, once we get to 8, I think, is when we're done. So we'll set that to 8 for now. So now I can see that's the ones that scanner's doing, that's what that scanner's doing, and so on. So now we have all these points worked out. Another cool thing with this is if we were to move a scanner inside of Revit, this would update as well. So I'll go ahead and just move this one on the outside. And we'll see that Dynamo's thinking once again. So what happened is that scanner's position's updating, and now we're starting to see what's going on. So once that's finished updating, we could go ahead and turn the preview back on. See that we have a new scan location. We'll get rid of this part, and we have that going. In theory, you can increase the density a lot and just leave it running for a while. It being Dynamo running on Revit, sometimes the performance is a little less than you'd like it to be. That's kind of how you can start to point cloud a model. Thanks.